jumped aboard other than trustees?
Yeah.
You
Right
already
now
know that?
right now we don't have anybody, but I
Okay.
can let, I try to announce if somebody's in the attendees. Sometimes people pop up during the meeting.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, you're hearing the YouTube echo. Hold on.
No, we can see who's attending, but yeah, you're right, David. We need to say it out loud just to put it into the record.
And one of the petty things I noticed about the minutes from the December meeting is that Amy Yazdani is noted right up front in the minutes as in attendance, and then halfway down on page 2 it says Trustee Yazdani was absent. Did you depart, Amy?
I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah, I don't remember if I left early or not.
Yeah, you did, because you were waiting to go to an appointment, Amy, and they had just let you in. So you said you had to leave in a few minutes. We took the vote, I think, 3 minutes after you left.
Of course.
Okay, so everybody's here. We have present Marguerite Landry, Ryan Donovan, Amy Yazdani, David Eckberg, Jane Davis, Kim Reagan, Janet Maney. Okay, so are we starting to record or are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording and we're live on YouTube, and I can also confirm that no one is in the attendees right now.
All right, and so Mariana, thank you. All right, first order of business, I'm convening, it's 11:04. It is the 13th, Friday the 13th of January 2023. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the meeting for December 16th, 2022. Do I have any emendations or corrections? I'm hearing none. All right, hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So moved.
All right, that's David. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, that's Amy. All in favor, Landry, aye. David,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Jane. Jane, are you muted? I think Jane dropped off. Well,
No,
Janet,
She's
on
muted
but
now.
muted.
Jane?
Aye.
Okay. I'm still not hearing Jane.
There might be an issue with her audio. She just dropped off.
Okay, all right. Well, well, I'm going to say that the approved as amended, and we haven't heard from Jane yet, so I don't know whether that's an abstain or.
I think she's going to try to log back in. There was a recent Zoom update. So my computer needed to update because I hadn't done it. So
All
it's possible that that's creating an issue for her. I
All right.
also, Bill Lenane is now in the attendees.
All right, thank you.
Marguerite, there were no changes, correct?
Correct.
Oh, you said approved as amended.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Approved as not amended. All right, so I don't know what to do about Jane's vote. What's the protocol if present or not able to
Just say you have quorum, so you can still
right.
approve minutes. We can just, she can let us know if there were issues with the minutes, if she's able to get back on the meeting.
All righty, that's fine. Okay, so then passed as presented, not amended.
Regarding this point, Ryan, is there a way that we can schedule to get these like, a week or two before the meeting? Under normal circumstances, we take like, a quarter of an hour to tell our amendments. And if we could do it ahead of time and then just send out the final copy for approval, that might make us.
Yeah, so I'm trying to, Mariana has been really good at preparing the minutes, like probably the next week after the last meeting. Then the negligence has been, I think, in me sending them out. So I'm going to try to send them out pretty much when they're ready to go. And then I can try to schedule that for like a standardized time, like a week before the meeting. And then if you guys can send edits into me, I will try to send out, I think my new goal for all of you is to send out the minutes like with the packet so that you have it with like the director's report, the expense report. You'll have like the final version, or I'm saying final version, but before the
Final
meeting.
draft, yeah.
The only issue is that then like if somebody didn't get a chance to read it until they're reviewing all the materials, right, Amy, they can still amend it at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah,
So
but
what,
not so many.
yeah, so like David, I'm sorry, I'm gonna single you out, David, but David and has been pretty good at giving me edits before the meeting, right? So I'm able to integrate a lot of those edits. The only time that David kind of gives editorial feedback in the meeting is when he's gotten the minutes like the day before, you know, like, so he had one chance to read it and he's doing it in the meeting. So, I don't know if this helps. I don't know what I
Shall we,
said.
shall we aim for releasing the draft of the minutes to the board at least 3 days before the meeting? Is that?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to do it a week ahead of time. That's
All
what
right,
Amy
okay,
suggested. I
yeah.
think that is doable, Amy. That's,
Okay.
I'll try that for
Okay,
next time.
good
And then if-
suggestion.
And
yeah.
then if we can get our amendments in like 3 days before, then he can have a chance to make the changes, get them back to us to make, for the final approval.
Right.
Just a
right.
thought.
Yep.
I work late on, since our meetings have been on Friday mornings, and since I work late on Tuesdays, what I can kind of tell you is Tuesday night is kind of my time to do this. So that can be like the goal. If you can
Okay.
get them like Tuesday by 6 o'clock, you'll get, hopefully the packet either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning.
All right, sounds like a good plan. If that's okay, if that isn't putting too much of a time crunch on Mariana, that'd be fabulous. She's doing a great job on the minutes, I must say.
Amen.
Yeah, really. And thank you, David, for the active editing, which is also good. All right, shall we move on to the director's report? Item number 2. Ryan, what do we need to know?
Well, the only thing I'll say on the last point too is that my goal for next month is to send you guys less emails. Which, after we can laugh about it, but I actively feel bad. So, okay.
I didn't notice it was that bad, frankly. Thank you.
So, the big announcement, as silly as this sounds, is that the 4-month trailer in our parking lot was removed. That did take me all day. So I was told by Ted's Towing that the police department needed to do it. There were several times that the police department told me Ted's had to do it. So I had to get everybody in the room and talking, and then the trailer was removed, I think.
Crazy.
That was the true, I think, holiday present for the library, right? It was so that the trailer is gone. The mobile blood drive van is coming back on February 9th. So part of the reason I was a little bit more adamant about getting it removed is that it created an issue for where the mobile van parked last time, which it didn't really affect parking, but it could have if we hadn't scheduled around the blood drive. So that was my goal, was to get this done, I would say, before the next blood drive.
Great to share the parking lot with the blood drive also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, just since we're on the blood drive as a point too, I was contacted by the organizer who is also a Girl Scout troop leader. She asked if it would be permissible if next to the blood drive, Girl Scouts were to set up after school and sell cookies in the parking lot.
Nope.
Nope.
You're not allowed to approve sales without going through the cookie master. And if you do that, it's going to be a random draw. So do not want to get involved in that. I'm telling you now.
The
Okay,
Cookie
so
Master, there's a cookie master.
There
What
are
is the
rules.
Cookie Master?
They have
There has to be, I remember there's
Huh?
a cookie
to
master,
give
yes.
out the places where you can sell cookies. They all have to be approved through the town cookie master, and then like randomly, quote unquote, randomly assigned. And then you're going to be the bad guy, Ryan. When
Okay.
The
somebody,
other troops are bent out of shape,
and why
right?
can't, yes, and
So
why
s-
can't they sell there Monday through Friday and Saturday and open the library so they can sell it? Yeah, I know the person that requested, and I absolutely adore them, but you're going to be sorry that if you do that. Just
Okay, well, I will
Okay.
mention
Cookies
that
is
it was,
Jane
I will-
knows, Kim
yeah.
knows.
I will mention that I asked the library trustees in that, well, I'm not gonna throw you guys under the bus. I'll
The
just say
Cookie
no.
Master was invoked, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
Throw us under the blood van.
Okay, well, that answers that one.
yeah. check that.
Unless she's already asked the cookie master, in which case,
Well, he can't open slots without, he just can't say you can sell in front of Sperry's Liquor without Sperry's Liquor approval. But it's not the one time, it's every leader who will see them in front of the library and then come to Ryan and be mad if he doesn't allow
Yeah,
it. And that's my concern.
yeah.
Like, do you know what I
so
mean?
why are the Girl Scouts having a cookie master? Why don't they have a cookie mistress?
Well, because a dad decided to do it. That's why.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, and the problem truthfully quickly is there's no place to sell in town. There's the transfer station and Dunkin' Donuts. And like Brookline, we were talking to a leader there. They have so many spots that most of them go empty because there's not enough troops to fill it, where we're like dying to have a place to sell. But
Well, maybe the library could open up, maybe the cookie master could use the library as one venue.
if we're willing to do that, but then you have to be willing to have people be mad at you, which is what happens because
Well-
they see it as Ryan not allowing it, even though somebody else is doing the scheduling.
Well, what if it rotated troop by troop, year
But that's
by
not
year?
how there's a whole lottery system.
Okay, I'm gonna stay out of that then. It sounds above my pay
That's just
grade.
my concern. I don't know, Jane and Kim and
I
Jan.
think just say this, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, just say no, sorry, but no.
There's a ton of troops because there's a
Yeah.
few troops per grade and
Yes, there's,
Oh,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's
This
a
is-
can of worms you don't want to open, I think.
Exactly.
All
That's
right.
my fear.
It's like, we appreciate their mission, but no. All right. Okay. Any other
All right.
discussion on that?
Well, so
Okay.
actually, since we're in the same vein, I have a meeting next
Vein.
week.
Jane,
You got me,
move
Janet.
on.
So I also got contacted by a former resident who lives in Shrewsbury now named Pat Silvestri, who's part of the Marathon Quilters Group Association. They do like a fundraiser and are selling raffle tickets. They're displaying the quilt at Shrewsbury. We've been talking about ways to do it at our library. I think what Pat is kind of going to propose on Tuesday is bringing the quilt in, setting up a little table, and then just like being able to answer questions about it, and then also sell raffle tickets for their fundraiser, which I believe is in February. You know, we've been doing some of the knitting group, right? We had that initiative over the summer, and then the knitting group has been meeting on Saturdays, on alternating Saturdays. So I was thinking of kind of like setting it up so that it could kind of coincide with the knitting group. Would there be objections to her selling raffle tickets at the library?
have we done that before?
No.
No,
I don't think
we've
so.
sold, the only raffle tickets that we've sold for another organization is the Rotary Club. They do a talent show at Trottier, and we've been a venue because people could only buy them in the morning when school opened. They couldn't buy them at night. And then even then we maybe sold like a total of 10 tickets per season. It's been a very small group.
That's also a town organization.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's not like a town board and committee, but the Rotary Club is based in Southborough, and they're doing it at a Southborough school.
But wait
Yeah.
a second, the quilt organization is a Shrewsbury I'm not clear on what it is exactly.
Right.
I was gonna learn more in my meeting on Tuesday, or I think Wednesday. It was either Tuesday or Wednesday we scheduled to talk. Wednesday morning. It's
Actually,
called,
Do we have a solicitation policy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel the same way, Janet, like, because we need to
Yeah, you need a,
hope to finish. You got to worry about all the other things that could come after is what I'm always.
yeah,
concerned.
you need a permit to have a raffle. I mean, you need to pay taxes on it after the
Yeah.
fact. It's not a small thing
You have to register with the town.
so
with the town.
yeah, the raffle is, I believe, for the quilt, now that I'm rereading it. And there's gonna be a show at the Hopkinton Center for the Arts in September.
So it's
so
kind of
that-
a Shrewsbury, Hopkinton, other local towns, other libraries doing it.
Shrewsbury is, but what I'm gonna talk with Pat about is that there really isn't a feasible, what she wanted was to display the quilt for a little while at our library.
Mm.
And I mean, we have the one quilt, which you remember took us a long time to get back up after the painting. So I told her, you know, we really don't have a large wall space to display a quilt. We don't really have the equipment to display a quilt. If we're working with the facilities department, you know, that took a long time to get the dedicated quilt we had back up. So, I mean, to be honest, I think the solicitation policy is kind of like my default is to say no to
Yeah.
people, because I think kind of touching on what Amy was saying about the Girl Scout cookies is if I say yes to one person, it opens it up that I have to say yes to everyone. So I'm happy to communicate to Pat that she could display the quilt and answer questions about it and then provide information about the group, but that she wouldn't be able to sell raffle tickets.
Yeah.
That it
You don't
sounds
want,
like.
you don't want people coming into the library having to dodge around tables of people soliciting, you know. I mean, the Girl Scouts are pretty aggressive too. We're trying to get into
What is
Stop and
the-
Shop
what
some
is the-
days with them.
What is the quilt supporting? I mean, is it, you said
Who's benefiting from the sale of the quilt? You
yeah,
mean,
yes.
yeah,
The Marathon Quilters Guild is a charitable and educational 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Their primary purpose is to educate, inspire, and participate in community quilting projects for charities.
So it's fundraising for charities, but it's not a Southborough organization. I'm just wondering about,
And they're not being specific about what charities.
right?
I mean, it could be, I don't know,
Or
political.
quilting.
I mean, they're already doing this in Shrewsbury. I think Pat contacted us because she used to be a Southborough resident and she used to be a library user. So that's why. I mean, I'm happy to just, if it's okay with you, I'm happy to give her a space where if she wanted to talk to people about quilting, or I could invite her to the knitting group so that she could connect with those women. But I wouldn't, I probably would say no to the raffle.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
what
like
I'll do.
quilting is cool. It'd be a nice addition to have somebody who did quilting in the library, as with other art forms like that. But the fundraising part of it, we don't have a policy yet, so I don't think we.
And I think we should probably
think you
have a
want-
written policy because, you know, like the woman who was running for Carolyn Dykema's seat, I can never
Yes.
remember her name, won,
Kate-
came to candidates night, was it, or something, and
Kate
wanted to
Donahue?
hand out things and
Yes.
she was told no. So we should have something in writing about that. I think.
Yes,
Okay,
okay, so
I can
good
work,
point.
I can draft something up for us to review at a
It
future
would
meeting.
cover
Janet.
political selling things, you know.
Yep, makes sense.
that's a good idea. I think we need that.
It has come up,
obviously
the issue of it coming up on candidates night has been a repeat issue over
Yeah.
the years.
Yeah,
Good. Okay, so that
Good.
that had a good outcome. Other things we need to know, Ryan.
Those were I'm sorry, the quilters didn't make the director's report because she just emailed me. I
Yeah.
think it was Wednesday morning.
So we'd love to help, but we're not equipped policy-wise at this point.
Yeah, I don't have any more information on the website upgrade, but I am trying to schedule a meeting with him. I think the program things are pretty self-explanatory. It does look like, I actually do have kind of a little update on Solve, not on them using meetings at the library, but we are looking to schedule a public program with a gentleman who's going to come and talk about coyotes in March. We're looking at March dates right now. So that is just one of the public programs. We haven't done one with Solve for a while, so it was kind of nice. And I'm working primarily with Sally Waters on that one, who we've worked with before.
she's great.
And yeah,
have-
she-
Yeah,
she is.
yeah,
So good, a coyote event will certainly be well
a
attended.
coyote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yes.
did one on, I think a lot of the Solve programs actually are memorable. I learned a lot more about, I want to say like critters, but like there was a one we did on beavers years ago that was really, and about, you know, there was some harmful effects of beavers building dams. on some people's
Oh, yeah.
properties. So
They can be a nuisance.
yeah, so, and it was just about like, how to handle that and, why they're doing it, where they're doing it. And it was just, I don't know, it stood out as like one of the highlights for me over the years. I
Yeah,
really
it
like
sounds
that one.
it sounds really good. What's the date on it? Do you know yet?
We don't know yet, but it probably a Thursday night in March. We're looking at those dates to see if the speaker can confirm. And then if there's some availability on Wednesdays, but we're trying to shoot for a Thursday if
Yeah.
we can make that happen.
That sounds great.
Do you know what position the speaker takes on coyotes? Because I fell into a couple of deep holes following some things. It's people are unbelievably dug in and adamant about their positions for and against. Like, well, you
Okay.
should just keep your pets inside. Coyotes deserve to be here, even if they're overrunning your property and attacking people. And then there's others that are, so I mean, it's a very contentious subject.
Well, I think more information on them.
Oh
is-
yeah, no, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but
They're a new phenomenon. They were
brace
not-
yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think there'd be like with the beaver one, it was like information generally on like, how beavers sort of affect an ecosystem, and then sort of like what behaviorally how they build the dams. And then there was a question and answer section at the end where we heard a lot of anecdotal stories about the damage that had been done on people's properties as a result. I would suspect with the coyotes, we'd set it up similarly. It would be like information about coyotes, what, like, are they prevalent in the area, and then it would probably be a Q&A where we talk about different methods to deal with it. And we'd probably get some anecdotal stories, Janet. It sounds
Yeah.
like if there's
Well,
issues, yeah.
Supposedly we have reached saturation in Massachusetts on coyotes. They're like on every acre throughout the state.
There's a coyote, I know, and I want to know whether Mass Wildlife moved them here like they moved the turkeys here. Because that was a deliberate
I don't know.
turkey importation
Hmm.
by the state. So
Coyotes are frequently seen in my neck of the woods.
yeah,
Oh,
really.
absolutely.
You get them in
You
the
get 'em-
yard. They're horrible. I mean,
Whenever I drive up my street, you see little eyeball, you see light
it's like
and eyes reflecting in the headlights.
it's a little bit like that Russian story where they run the troika and they have to throw people overboard to the wolves every once in a while. I
We have
think like,
foxes too, so some.
yes, yeah. Anyway, okay, so that sounds like a great program. I know I will attend. Any other things we need to know, Ryan?
Just a quick question on the history collection, that training, Ryan.
Yeah.
Are you going to have all your full-time staff go through that?
No, so we talked about this. The paraprofessional staff are gonna do it, so
Oh, okay.
the library supervisors, we're calling them now, and the library assistants. So Libby requested the training, but because Leah and Carol do more of the cataloging traditionally, we thought we would do it with them. Mariana, Kim, and I are interested in it as well, but we would set up, we're gonna work with Leah in particular on sort of training us after she goes through it, so kind of like an osmosis thing. And then if we have additional questions, we'll request CW Mars come back at some point to do it with the three of us. I don't
Okay.
do I do cataloging infrequently. I would say Kim does most of children's and Mariana does the YA books. So we would probably want to get them trained as well. To your point, David. And there's some part-time people that this might be applicable for too. So, but we're gonna start with the full-time paraprofessional staff.
Okay, thank you.
Brian,
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm the only one that this matters to, then we can drop it. But I wouldn't mind getting a list of your full-time employees and their job titles now.
Yeah, no, we should update that because of the title changes that are proposed for the next thing. So I can draft a list. I think that would be good. There is a list on the library's website, just for everyone's edification. It needs to be updated slightly, but it is under the About section on the website, and then there's library staff. Emails are only listed for myself, for Kim Ivers, and for Mariana, because people tend to follow up with us about programming or volunteer opportunities. So we don't list everybody's email on there. But we have everybody, including the high school pages.
Great, thank you.
Good question. Other things we need to know, Ryan?
No, so I did, I don't know, Janet, if you got a chance to talk with Freddie. I did this week. So I know we talked about how we were gonna send out some materials and review things for this meeting. So the conversation with Freddie was very positive. I think she still wants to continue work with the garden, but they're going to focus on the existing site right now. They're not going to look at doing some of the additional work that they had planned, and they decided to not pursue a CPA application at this point.
Just
So
time
that
constraints, is that?
I think time constraints are a big factor. And also, they're doing a lot of other projects, including at Breakneck Hill. There's also, this wasn't mentioned, but I think a lot of the conversation adjacent to the library and work that's being done there is
Yeah.
it could be a factor as well. So I think the idea to focus on the existing garden, enhance that, use this as a year to build up a volunteer base, which is something I talked to Freddie about before, is not a bad idea. So she's happy to come and talk in a future meeting, but it was I think time was just getting away from us more and more as we were progressing. And, she had wanted to put materials together and she ran out of time.
Yeah.
So, but she was proactive and she did reach out to me and give me the update. So I wanted to let the board know that and just say that I'm committed to continuing to work with her. I know that, she's been in touch with Marguerite and Janet at different points too, just to kind of give them little mini updates. So.
Okay, good. Other questions? No? Shall we move-
David did attend the Friends meeting. I will just say in the solicitation policy, we got to put something in there because we did allow the Friends to have their PayPal information on our website, remember? That is just taking longer than they thought in navigating all of the ins and outs because everybody's learning this for the first time. So there's been some troubleshooting with the PayPal account. So there is, we have some draft stuff up, but they're working on additional information. We're learning more and more how it works. So
PayPal is tricky because sometimes because they take a dink out of what the donation is, I've noticed some people want, would you like to put on an additional $3 to cover the cost of the PayPal? And that's kind of a tricky territory to negotiate.
Yeah, that's one of the very issues that they were talking about this past Wednesday. And David was nice enough to be at that meeting the whole time. I think he is a paid friend. So he got to hear all about the difficulties, the challenges with the PayPal.
The long and short of it, by the way, was that it was decided, at least for now, that it would be nickel and dimey to ask people to pay an extra, whatever it is, 1.5% on a $20 membership fee. And so even though that comes out of that's netted out of what the Friends actually get, that if you did that, it would alienate more people. And so they've decided just to leave it the way it is. Am I right about that, Ryan?
Yeah. And there is a smaller rate that they charge because it's a nonprofit. They gave their nonprofit status, but they're deciding what they want to do about. They're really going to use this more as a launching pad, I think, for donations to start, just generalized donations. They're looking at how to integrate membership as the next step. And then beyond that, I think they're looking at, can it be used for book sales, which it turns out is the more complicated question, right? So
Yes.
Especially because some of the sales are so tiny for the book sales. If somebody comes and they just buy a couple discarded materials, they might be paying more in really fees at the end of the day than they are in their purchase. So they're just trying to navigate all those issues. I'm trying to assist them as much as I can. But it's up to them, and they're a group that's supporting us. So I'm trying to help support them as much as I can.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. We use PayPal for selling Girl Scout cookies to loop everything right back. And not only do you have the percentage, Girl Scouts considered nonprofit too. It was a per transaction. There's like maybe like 10 cents for every transaction, and then the percentage on top. So yeah, it's a struggle. I can see why they're.
Yeah. No, we went through this trying to put the PayPal on our Southborough Gardeners website, and we're successful. So I know it's possible, but you do lose a tiny amount. And your point about the smallness of purchases could just be, maybe that's when they say, just give me $1 and then leave it at that.
Yeah.
Or do we,
You
or do
know.
we still stick with cash and check for the book sales? I mean, that's something they're gonna have to decide. They
Yeah.
could do that if they want, or they could incentivize cash by giving like a bigger discount for
Yeah.
the books, right? Like if they go
Yeah.
to a PayPal, they could just charge more to help offset the cost. I think that might be,
It's
but
it's not huge though. I mean, you're not talking about big sales maybe you hope
Yeah,
to be,
right.
but at the book sale, it's not a huge percentage. I hope they figure it out, because people are much more likely to spend more money, and they just, give you your card and.
Yeah.
Wait, except I helped out at the Christmas Day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people were so great about, well, I only have a $5 bill, and they just donated everything.
yeah,
You know,
Well,
They
there's
were-
that.
They were buying 75 cents worth of stuff. They had a $5 bill, and they said, "Oh, can you I'll put it in here, take the 75 cents out." Yeah.
Right.
So,
No,
I
I
wonder-
know that
I wonder if the friends are looking at.
inspires people.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we're not talking thousands of dollars here. Wonder if they've considered Venmo or something like that.
yeah, they did. So
That's-
that has come up repeatedly. Venmo has some security issues
Oh.
that were concerning. So that was PayPal was what they decided to go with, because there's been some nonprofit groups that have lost significant amount of money from Venmo transactions. And I think PayPal is where you get PayPal is definitely where you get started. It looks like
Right.
from people I've talked to.
Well, good. Anything we can do to help out, let us know.
So the expense report, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if anybody had questions about expenses this time.
No.
No.
I do have to, it was brought to my attention by a proactive trustee that I was negligent in previous expense reports in altering above the bar above. It should say FY23 in all of the expense reports, but it does sometimes read FY22. So now that we're in 2023, I'm going to be better about this. That's my commitment to you.
Okay, that trustee did not say you were negligent.
Negligent is my word that I'm using. So that's correct.
Well, yeah, and that changes over in July, right? That's a July 1.
Yeah,
That's
so it'll be
exactly right.
FY24. It's obviously we're in the FY23 budget. It's just, there's places to change, right? Like I changed the
Yeah.
dates and I just, I forgot to do that. So I apologize.
boy, it sure is helpful if somebody knew who that trustee was.
It's not, hey, I was keeping people with their anonymization there. And I think they kind of may have revealed themselves. So I think if we're okay with it, well, we can kind of go in order. Do we want to talk about the memo, the personnel board memo?
Why not? It comes up.
Okay.
Now. Yeah.
So on Monday, I'm very happy to report that on Monday, January 9th in the afternoon, I attended very briefly the part of the personnel board meeting in the afternoon where they reviewed the suggestion, the recommendation from the consultant who's doing the paying classification study to regrade the senior library assistant position. There was a discussion in the personnel board meeting prior to that about maybe a title change as well. So the memo that I sent in reflects what I would like the position to be called, which is library supervisor. That title change was approved. The reclassification as a separate item was also approved by the personnel board. So that is a little bit reverse from how we have done things in the past. Normally, the Board of Trustees approves these changes and then the personnel board does, but the timing kind of worked against us here is that, you know, there were recommendations that were provided to the personnel board a few months ago, and then I kind of worked directly with the consultant, had them interview one of our senior library assistants, and then an additional recommendation was made after that information and that interview occurred. So
You want us to vote on it?
yeah, I think you should vote on it, even though it's already been approved by the personnel board, just so that you know, we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's here. But the current, and to go back, because Janet asked about like the employees and the positions they have. So we have traditionally had and do have now 2 senior library assistants. That is Evangelia or Leah Selleck and Carol Logan. These are the 2 employees who would be affected by this change. So their title would go to library supervisor. They would then be, there's going to be a new grid for the personnel board too, but they're going to be considered moving up a grade. So if we were on our current grid, it would be, they're in Schedule A as full-time employees, and they're currently a grade 3, but they would be going up to a grade 4. So that's really what we should vote in this meeting is, it really should be 2 votes. I would do it the same way the personnel board did it, which is a vote for the title change, and then a vote for the reclassification. So to move Leah Selleck and Carol Logan from a Schedule A grade 3 to a Schedule A grade 5, and then also to change the title of senior library assistant to library supervisor.
Now,
You said 5. I think you meant 4.
Sorry, you're right, 4.
I just have one slight question. As I understand it, the entire pay grid is going to be changed. Is that right?
It's going to, I think they're looking at combining it all into one schedule, is my understanding. But
Right.
there's going to be additional information that's provided to us just for your edification, right? Because I know all of you are planning on going to town meeting this year, right? As we all do. But the personnel bylaw is a warrant article in each of your town meetings. So there will be a fully printed out version of how the personnel bylaw will now appear, including a schedule with the grades, positions, and pay scales.
So we'll be voting basically to move from a grade 3 to a grade 4 on the new system or on the old system?
Well, I can only go by the old system
Right.
as a recommendation because I don't have access to the new system yet.
Okay,
The personnel board is still working that out. But what they need to integrate people into the new system based off the old system. I know I sound crazy while I'm telling you guys
No,
this.
it's going to
This is
be
like
very
what-
interesting.
Yeah. So they're going to move the library supervisors, right, as a result of this vote into that classification and that scale. They'll be taking them in as a Schedule A grade 4 for the
Oh.
July bylaw.
All right, so the motions you want in this meeting are to approve the change of title from senior library assistant to library supervisor. Do you need to have the names of the 2 employees? Or do you just want the title change? Any employee who is a senior library assistant is now going to be a library supervisor.
Yes, and then if anybody in the future were to get promoted into that role,
Yeah.
or we were to, you know, because of attrition, if we had to replace that role, that's what they would be called,
Okay.
coming into the job.
All right. So that's the first order of business is to move and vote on changing the job title. Do we
Yeah.
need to include the 2 current employees in that motion? I don't think we
I
did.
would, I wouldn't, I don't, the personnel board didn't. I'm making you aware of who the employees are. I mean, it's not a factor in this change. It's based on, they didn't look at the individual employees, even though they did interview Carol. They looked at what the position does. And a large part of this were that the library supervisors now I wanted supervisor in their title, just so you understand my rationale about this too, is that they actively supervise the library pages now more than I do. That just is a matter of them being at the desk more and
Right.
them helping to direct their workflow at nights. Also, I'm there one night a week on Tuesdays, but there are 2 nights that I'm not there. I'm there every other Saturday, but that means there's Saturdays that I'm not there. So you can kind of see where this is going, is that Kim is it, and then just with
They are
Kim,
supervising, right?
yeah, they just are supervising the upstairs activities because Kim is downstairs and Kim can't, this is a factor of, I can't be everywhere at once, all the times that the hours the library's open. And it's the same with Kim, is that if Kim is actively doing programs downstairs, and then if she's, working with the associate staff, she can't manage the pages too. They also specifically look at acquisitions work that the staff does. So Leah buys most of the books in the adult collection. It's both fiction and nonfiction right now. And then we also have Carol contribute to entirely the large print and the audiobooks for upstairs. So that the factors that they have like the authority to make those decisions and to do those purchases. They still work under my general supervision, but I give them some level of autonomy in making purchases. I'm more concerned about the amounts that they're spending versus what they're spending on, if that makes sense. But I do, I provide feedback and give them kind of, general help if they're asking. And I will say, Carol's really good. She had no experience buying for libraries. That's really something she stepped up to. And the fact that Leah can do what she does and then still be able to buy books, and then that our collection is still so well utilized, I think speaks a lot to Leah's abilities as a staff member. She's a very impressive woman and has really risen to that, especially after Pat left. Is that a lot of the acquisition stuff was put on Leah, and she did a really good job. So that this was something Pat had when she was in the position prior. It's something that I think generationally is going to continue. We're going to see library supervisors continue to contribute to acquisitions.
All right, and I'd like to throw this open to the board for questions on that, but I had 2 quick questions. One, what is the name of the consulting company that did the study through town?
They called it the Collins Center. Let me
Right.
give you the
That's all I need, just the name of it, because they were the ones who did the interview. And the other one was,
it's the I keep saying it's the Performing Arts, but it's the Edward J. Collins Jr. Center for Public Management.
okay,
There's a Performing Arts Collins Center in Andover. It is not that one.
okay. Good to know. Well, it is sort of, anyway, and my other question is, are there other libraries in the area? Senior library assistant is a vague title. Library supervisor is much more specific. This is based on the interview, so I totally support this change. Are there other libraries in the area that have done a similar renaming of a position like that?
Yeah, I mean, this happens when paying classification studies occur, is that there's usually recommendations for either regrading or title changes. I am grateful to the consultant from the Collins Center who did allow me to send additional information. I did a poll of CW Mars libraries and received a lot of responses in a very short amount of time because we were asking about non-degreed professionals doing acquisitions work. And it turns out this happens in a lot of libraries. We're not unique in that. So that was definitely a factor in the recommendation moving forward with reclassification.
Okay, that's good. I'd like to ask members of the board if they have questions or comments on the change of the job title.
I just wanted to say that,
Go ahead, Kim.
thanks. I just wanted to say that I support it. It sounds like Leah and Carol are already have kind of naturally grown into that supervisory work, and it makes sense to pay them and give them the title that they deserve. And like Ryan said, it's like we only have 3 degreed librarians on our staff, and the upper management. And when anyone's out, it's like we need to be a little bit deeper in terms of like supervisory roles, because there is a staff beyond them that they need to manage. So I think this is a good move for us.
Agreed.
I agree.
I do too.
I agree. I don't know. I think I was on mute at the beginning of the meeting. I have to leave. So could we take this vote soon?
Yeah.
Yes, and it'll be 2 votes, so let's do that. So I move that we approve the change of title of senior library assistant to library supervisor effective
It
immediately,
would be July 1st.
July 1st. Okay,
Second.
that's Amy. Okay. All right, then the roll call. Landry, aye. Janet,
I,
Jane,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
David.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. And then the second part of this was, what else do you want us to vote on here?
Okay, so to approve the reclassification of Schedule A, Grade
Grade
3
Yeah,
Senior Library Assistant to Schedule A, Grade 4 Library Supervisor.
all right. I'm gonna make that motion if I can remember it, to
Say-
approve.
you could just say so moved.
So moved. How's that? Thank you, Janet.
Second.
Let's-
I'll second. Yeah,
all
again.
right. Thank
Give
you,
you-
Amy. All right, Landry, aye in favor. David,
Aye.
Janet,
I,
Jane,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
and Amy.
Aye.
All right, so that's both of those have passed unanimously for the record. And Jane?
Do you have to go now, Jane?
I have to go now. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I tried to say this at the start of the meeting, but you couldn't hear me.
Okay, and PS, you
sorry.
did vote in favor of the minutes, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Are you
In
able
in
to,
silence.
We tied up that
I
loose
said
end.
yes.
Good, all
just
right.
before you go, are you able to, do you have interest, or are you able to attend the advisory meeting on Saturday, January 28th? The one in the afternoon?
Probably Saturday,
Okay.
the 28th. What time?
We're in a block from
4:45
4:45 to 5:30. But we're just trying to determine if there's going to be quorum present, because we'll post an agenda.
I think I saw that. Yeah, I'll say yes.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
We'll say
Okay.
tentatively, Jane, so we won't
all
hold you
right.
to it.
I
Okay.
think I'll just paste
Okay.
put the agenda
right.
just to be sure.
All right.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
can I just say one other thing about the promotion of these folks?
Yes,
Before
please.
Jane go? Is I think it's great to have strong, a few other strong members of the staff, because I think it takes a little bit of pressure off Ryan and Kim too. That they should have enough authority and whatever, not to have to call for every little thing, and so that when you're not here, you get a break. So
Agreed.
I support it for that reason. Organizationally, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I agree, Jan.
It's also for an eye of a potential expansion or renovation in the future, Janet, to tell you the truth, is to have, if we get a bigger library, potentially, that's also open more hours, it's very likely that we'll have to expand staffing. And I think having a structure like this is something I'm more comfortable with, right? Because if we end up having to add somebody down the road, it might be in a supervisory capacity, and that it at least gives us the option to have somebody in a role like that, right? So,
Well, and it's given them a little more experience,
Yeah.
towards that too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
nice to have the authority to make decisions
Right.
when they're
And
able
Can
to.
I also just put in parenthetically that the library staff is fantastic and that they work really well together, and that's such a pleasure to have them there. Every single person contributes hugely, and it's a pleasure to see, Ryan. So
A tribute to our director.
there you go.
Yeah.
well, our staff is great too, and it's easy to be a good director when you have a great staff, I think. And so,
So we won't, let's move on to we have the library associate job search, but I think we'll wait on that and deal first with item number 6, which is the privacy policy and the security camera policy, which everyone has seen and read and hopefully given their edits on. Do we have any questions? Let's do the privacy policy first. And there's the issue also of, if you can explain, Ryan, why the security camera policy suddenly came up as something we need to decide on.
So this kind of I will admit, this kind of snuck up on me a little bit. It was in the prior capital plan for several years, but there was an incident in Winchester. We ended up doing an active stabber shooter training as a result. But if you're not familiar with this, there was a patron who had a past history of mental illness who stabbed another patron who had their back turned, and that patron sadly passed away, the one who was attacked. So that security became a big topic that year in libraries. It has somewhat subsided. It's not, I don't think, as actively part of the conversation as it was when that Winchester incident did occur. But having worked in, municipal New York for all those years where there were security issues there, and also working in smaller academic libraries before this one, I was very, security is always in the back of my mind, if that makes sense. The Southborough Library is the only library that I've ever worked at, and I've worked at, I think, a baker's half dozen of them, at least 6 or 7 different locations. Southborough is the only one that doesn't have any type of security camera at all. I know that a lot of other municipal buildings do not have cameras, so that this is kind of new a little bit to Southborough. What I did was I threw out, do any libraries have a policy on this, to try to get some feedback, right? And what I learned from finding out was I didn't get a multitude of responses like I did about the inquiry with the positions. What I did was I got kind of a trickle, and most of the people who responded to this wanted to know what I found out, because they're actively thinking about either putting cameras in, or B, they have cameras in and they don't have a policy around it. So this is kind of twofold. I did find a security camera policy, which has been adapted for us. But it is mostly from the Grafton Library that just recently went through a renovation. They now have cameras in their building, and they had a policy reviewed by their town council. So that one is pretty almost verbatim what they have. It does apply to cameras that we're looking at doing 2 cameras, just to remind everybody, that would mainly focus on the entryways of the building, right? So that if a security incident occurs, we'd be able to identify the person based on their entrance into the library. So it would be downstairs, facing the front door, and then we're looking at it upstairs, kind of way above the circulation desk, so that it would go down and it would, we would see from the reading room who was coming in and out. So that is the security camera policy. Grafton was the only policy I found that has their own, and that is recent, and I can tell you was reviewed by their town council. So
the $10,000 funding is another part.
I got 2 librarians from Springfield who emailed me their privacy policy, right? So the privacy policy, you'll see, covers security cameras at the end. Security cameras are a small part of their overall privacy policy. But, and I hate to throw 2 policies at you at once, guys, but this came up, right, organically as part of this, is that I read the privacy policy. A lot of this is stuff that we kind of do anyway, right? But it codifies, I think, patron security, which I think naturally leads itself into security cameras as well. So how I'll kind of end this is that none of these have to get approved today, right? These can be reviewed, we can get feedback. We can approve them if you want, but I would just say, I think both of them are valuable, especially if we're gonna get security cameras, we might want to have something specific to it. But what Springfield does is they have a privacy policy and not a security cameras policy, and Grafton's flipped. We could have both, we could have one and not the other. So those are kind of the options on the table for you.
I like the idea of just the privacy. I think that putting the cameras in there just covers everything. I worry about getting policy heavy. But I also, I kind of disagree with the idea of just two. I mean, it worries me that yes, you can identify if somebody is who harmed the person, but it would be nice to know that somebody is harmed in an area that can't be seen and, needs help. So I don't know what our options for that are, but I think the policies both read well. I just think lumping them all into one may make it first less of a big deal. Like the it's just all part of our privacy information, but
There is one other part of this that I'd like to mention. Jason Malinowski had noted in our budget that there was $10,000. There was not in the capital budget. There was $10,000 set aside for security cameras, which has been in there for a while. And he said that he wanted to remove that from the budget until we had a security camera policy. So there's also that issue. I personally I'm in favor of just doing two policies because the security camera policy has more detail, but I understand your point, Amy, that not having it policy heavy is important. And I think even having a draft of a security camera policy will be enough to move forward with the purchase of the cameras, which I'm definitely in favor of doing as soon as we can.
To be honest, just to cover Amy's point, I know you guys want to talk more about this too, and I'm sorry to cut everybody off, but I'm also looking actively at exploring whether or not we could put one in the teen room. That is still an area that's fairly isolated from the rest of the library. It has a lot of expensive equipment. And to be honest, the minute somebody is sick or out, we have a staffing issue down there. So it is sometimes vacant. So that's just an area that I would like to further explore whether or not we could get a camera down there. And that is something I've communicated to the facilities director, John Perry.
I think that's a great idea, Ryan. Just my thoughts on the two policies. Like, to me, privacy policy, when I think of it, it covers like information, like patron information, expectations, and things like that. And I think while it could make sense to lump the security camera policy or thoughts on that under the privacy policy, to me, I see those as really two distinct policies. I understand what Amy's saying is that, in the future, do we feel like we'll have an issue having to update so many distinct policies? But I think as long as, everything is very, as long as we understand why we have these policies, I don't think it'll be an issue updating them going forward. And especially with the security camera policy, if we need to have that policy in order to move forward, that certainly sways things in that direction to have two policies.
Well, would it be, Kim, I have no arguments against having two, but would, I guess my question is to Ryan, who probably can't answer this, is I would assume the security camera being included in the privacy policy covers what is needed, but I'm fine with two. Don't think I'm not. I just was throwing out, and just.
I'm in favor of adopting both of them, and I have a question identical question, which relates to each of them. Under the privacy policy, halfway down the page, under circulation, that's item 3, mentioned the library director. I'm wondering if we should also add the assistant library director.
Yeah.
And then this question on the camera policy under board review, where we mentioned the library director, that's on page 2. Does it make sense to also add assistant library director?
Yes, it does. That's a good note, David. That can be added very easily.
Okay.
I tried to, in reviewing the policies really quickly, add in assistant library director. Those weren't present in Grafton, but I want Kim to have access to everything I do with regarding to the security cameras. Kim has been somebody that I've talked to in particular about this. And because I know there's been discussions, I think, over the years repeatedly about the pros and cons of having cameras at the library. And then Mariana was somebody I specifically talked to about the teen room issue. And she has no concerns, I think, about that. So I think like
No
many
concerns
of
about
us,
having, no concerns about having
no
a
concerns
camera.
about having the cameras. I think she would be, I think she sees the value there in enhancing security. So
Okay, other board members? Janet?
I'm thinking of not just security. It doesn't matter to me whether it's two policies or one. The other thing is, I'm just thinking of the guy who fell on the steps. I like that, having a record of these kind of things too, is because some people do, for whatever reason. I think it's a good thing to have a record. How long would the tapes be kept?
So we're looking at, I talked to Grafton about that a little bit, and they typically keep footage for about 2 weeks. There apparently is some flexibility in how long we could do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't want just a 24-hour loop, something longer than that.
No, we'd have to, and the more storage we do, the more concerns there are with paying for that long term, right? You keep data, you have to store data, and that costs money.
Well, I think it's a good idea to vote on this today and support with the, if we have other editorial changes, I wouldn't mind doing a vote on this now if everybody's on that page.
Well, I will so move and note the addition of the assistant library director in those 2 spots that I mentioned before.
All right, shall we vote on each policy with a separate vote?
I would, I think that especially since there was some discussion about not having both a little bit, I would take them both individually.
Okay, everybody okay with well, okay, so David, do you want to move the security camera policy first?
Yes, I move that we adopt the security camera policy as amended, simply adding the assistant library director under the board review paragraph on page 2.
That should have been there, so I apologize, it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
It already
second.
is in there.
Okay, so Amy seconds. All right, so Landry, aye. David,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
and Amy.
Aye.
All right, that's great. So, okay, so that passes unanimously. Now, David, do you want to do the Southborough Library privacy policy?
Yes,
While you're
I
on a
move that
roll
we
here. Okay.
I move that we adopt the privacy policy with the addition of the assistant library director in paragraph 3 in the middle of page 1.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All
Keep
right,
it-
thank
keep
you,
it
Amy. And
consistent.
Landry, yes. David,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
and Amy.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so those both are passed unanimously with those emendations. Good. I am very happy with that vote. I think it's long overdue to get cameras into the library. Just my personal thoughts. All right, Ryan, how is the library associate job search going?
Good. It closed yesterday formally. So there's no appointment we have to do at this meeting. But there are 6 candidates total. So we are now, we were hoping to schedule interviews next week. I think there's only one day that Vanessa and Kim and I can all do them. So we're going to see if we can schedule some interviews for that day. We have to confirm Vanessa's availability. And then we're hoping to do the bulk of the initial interviews the week after. So that's the week that on Saturday, I will see most of you at the 28th if you come to the advisory meeting. We will probably need to narrow down the candidates. So we'll call people back for a second interview. We'd probably try to do that with the 2 top candidates, maybe 3 if we like what we see, and we have a lot of good ones. I can tell you we have a lot more local residents than we have in past part-time job searching. So I think having the ad up a couple places was helpful. Because we put it up at the library, we put it up at the townhouse. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is that we're going to be scheduling interviews. We might see I think initially we might interview all 6 because we've interviewed more people in the past, but I'm going to kind of touch base with Kim and Vanessa to see if there's any candidates that they strongly feel like we shouldn't meet with. I look in reviewing their credentials, I think it's worth talking to everybody who applied, to be honest. So
Are these folks with a lot of library background?
some of them do, and some of them have applicable experience, like they've worked either in education or something that had heavy customer service fields. But some of them have very impressive library backgrounds, I'll say too.
I've got to say, I don't know whether it's luck or the field you're talking about, but everybody else is having trouble getting people.
Well,
and it's all over.
yeah.
I'm on the board of
Normally,
trustees for some companies in Maine, and they are closing some of their shops because they can't staff them. My daughter's daycare in Vermont is closing because of staffing. I mean, it's very widespread.
we're not immune. In the past, when I've posted this on the MBLC job site, it is not uncommon for us to get like 20 applications within the first 48 hours for an open position. And that's even if it's part-time. To say that we only have 6 applicants for the open position is that we've never had that low before, believe it or not. But I think I still am happy with 6. I mean, we also are looking for very specific hours. So we want to do the interviews almost as a screening to make sure that that people had read that part of the job ad and that people are available those hours, because we're covering a very specific, that we had an employee leave and we're covering very specific night shifts as a result of that. So, and to be honest, I think some of our other staff would like to take vacation at some point. They have vacation time. And once we get into the nicer weather, that's going to start popping up again. So we want to see if the candidates also, have the ability and also the desire to work extra shifts if that comes up.
So do you think by our next meeting in a month, you'll have a decision?
Oh, yeah. And then if we're, I don't know if the board would entertain this, but the next meeting that we'd have regularly scheduled is February 17th. I'm already going to run into my college kids who are helping us cover. So shout out to Jade and to Mia, who have both been at the library helping us cover some of the nights. Jade goes back to school at the end of January. So that's when we start running into kind of a leaner evening staff. And that's on one of my nights. That's on the Tuesdays too. And Leah covers Thursday, and it's on hers too. So we're asking people to cover extra, but there's not a lot of flexibility with the existing staff that we have now. People are like kind of at their maximum. So if the board would entertain this, if we're ready to go with a decision, I might see if you guys could do a special meeting just to do the employee appointment.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Just a one agenda item meeting. Yeah, sounds
Yeah,
great.
we might have to, we do have to Corey and Sori check the individuals. We'll probably do that with the final candidates. We might not be ready to go until the 17th. So I'll just keep you updated until we get to that point.
Okay, other board questions? Okay, sounds good, Ryan. Now how about the item number 8, which is the library facade restoration project?
Progress has been made.
So we got drawings. Thank you to Lynn Spencer from SSV, who was the architecture firm who helped us with the facade restoration. She provided the drawings that we need to integrate into the plan. So John, I set up 2 meetings with John to sit down with John, and he had to cancel both of them. One was because he was sick, and the other one was because of the townhouse project. He was called away and had to be up there. So we are still committed to meeting and going over his concerns and then reviewing those. But my next step is to meet with John. But we at least have the drawings is the first step. And then I'm going to meet with John, and then hopefully I will circle back with Janet, and we can kind of go from there.
Well, do you want me to meet with you and John?
Maybe we could do that, because I think it would be helpful, Janet, since we had our list of issues. I wanted to see if there was like some overlap between things that we could go back to the attorney with. But maybe having you, because I know the 3 of us get along, I think, when we're in a room too.
And
so
I think that way we could kind of finalize it in that meeting.
Yeah.
And maybe just write it up and send it in versus another step.
I would agree with that, Janet. So let's try to find a time that the three of us are available, if that's okay.
Yep.
So that's Janet, John, and Ryan. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Janet, so much for taking point on this. I know it's been a bit of a marathon.
I know. But it's like you can start to see that light at the end of the
The
tunnel.
end of the tunnel.
It's just a
Yes.
pinpoint down there, but it's getting.
No,
can
that's
see
great
it.
work. I know it's been very long and has involved a sort of education on the legal sides of preservation restrictions. Anyways, there it goes. Okay, other comments on that? No? Yes? All right. The last item for today is to listen. Actually, we have an attendee. It is Bill Linane. He is a trustee at the Westboro Library, and David got into conversation with him, and they, as you know, have had a checkered history with their library renovation. And so, Ryan, if you can promote Bill, it was thought that it would be helpful to listen to his experiences and his suggestions before we start our process of a renovation. So I'm gonna just leave it there, and maybe, Bill, thank you for coming, and can you fill us in on, I think it was a sixth town meeting that the library board went to asking for funding. Maybe you could just take the floor and tell us what we need to know.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So happy Friday the 13th. And thank you all for inviting me, and especially conversation with David. I made an outline because to kind of keep myself on track. So I'll read from that, but I'm open for questions afterwards, or can come back to you, or if you say so, then David and I can cover some of the questions after that. So who am I? I'm a fourth generation of Westboro, sometimes referred to as a legend, a connector, an ambassador, kind of a student mentor for a special program here in Westboro. My background is construction project administration, and also 45 years of various town involvement on various committees. I've been 10 years with the library, 6 years as a trustee. So a summary of, and by the way, this is one man's point of view, and sometimes referred to as an old guy, okay? But
No, we can't even go there. Please, as a fellow old guy, no.
so first of all, the grant development was an application we did roughly 7 or 8 years ago. We were previously thinking and made aware of the need for windows, roof, electrical, bathrooms, and much more. So as it became aware that we could apply for the grant through the Massachusetts Library, we decided to go for that. So it took quite a while, as you can assume, but 2 years ago, we were told we were number one, and we were finally awarded about a year ago. And there is a scramble that begins after that to get to the town meeting for approval, as you can imagine. There's getting finalized updates on things, and especially where it's a long period of time in between. So don't kid yourself about that part of it. The cost escalated in our case from 25 million to 36 million. And as you're aware of, with grants with the Public Library Association, the grant stays the same, and in our case, it was 9 million. So it kind of threw the people in the community way off base. So we had summarized to the different town meetings over the years, as you referred to, but on a limited basis, and that may have been as you look back, maybe we should have done more, but you got to find a place on the town meeting to bring it, and the moderator always allowed us to at least give a brief statement. At the first town meeting, we missed by 15 votes, and the people in the community decided they wanted to come back. And that creates a ruckus that you have to deal with. Some people don't want to see you come back as a second time for something. It's sour grapes, yada, yada, yada. And at that time, there were enough rebel rousers, as the old guy referred to, that the vote went from 450 roughly to 750 against. So you got to be careful of things that you go along from there. Bill's lessons learned from that: keep the public continuously aware of scope and details, not just the public library users and the interested people, but anyone and everyone that can vote. That's critical. Westboro was encouraged to look into many project specifics quite early in the game. And that was based on the grant, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But as ideas and situation arose, we missed how to respond to those. Therefore, the planning at the very beginning stages needs to be thorough and careful, and it needs to be updated along the way so that the whole town is aware of what they are. The general process, the big thing is a needs assessment that all agree to, and that's, again, the library patrons, the trustees, and whatever the supporters are, as well as the town itself. We ended up, and I recommend strongly based on my construction background, is that you go with the what they refer to as the construction management at risk, or the CMR. You end up with a guaranteed price. It has allowances in it, but the allowances back up the price that you end up going with.
I'm
Therefore-
sorry, Bill, is that a company that you hired to do that?
Yes, and I'll refer to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the contingencies, they're not developed as you go along. They're developed with allowances in them, but there are your team, which I refer to as the architect, the OPM, and the contractor. They have the details to that. You can't hide them, and you don't want to, but you can't spell them out in complete detail as to where everything is, where it is, because you're still in the preliminary stages of plans, etc. On the OPM, on the CMR way, you end up with bids first by qualification and then by price, as many of you may know. But you end up with the architect, the OPM, and then the contractor. And I'll tell you who we ended up with at the end. And it's important from my standpoint of view that you include, when you sign these people, have the allowances, the allowance that should you want them back again, you can without going out for rebid. There's an article, there's a place in the bottom of it, if you want us back again, sign here. And then it's not a permanent thing. Naturally, if they have done a bad job, you can back out of it. But if they get to know, in our case, they got to know the building and all the rest of it, it was foolish not to bring them back. We did it with the architect and the OPM. We didn't do it with the contractor for some reason. Just doesn't surface to me why. And the contractor is good also, so it would have been good to do. You want to make the public aware that there are state and town policies, bylaws, etc., that require certain approvals. And I start at the back end. Any building that's done in a community has to have sign-off. That being from your building department. And if but your building departments, no matter what the size of the town, they rely upon the expertise of professionals on the outside. So if you don't get them in ahead of time, then you're subject to criticism from everybody. Well, you can do that with the fire department, or somebody else can help you somewhere along the line. And details of that, your billing department doesn't have the staff to do all of that, and they rely. I already said that they rely upon the others to do that. But it's important to keep the public aware of that all the way along or you get bitten at the end.
Mhm.
Also, I would.
How would you recommend keeping the public aware? Like doing like news thingies on the library website, or
I think there's a combination of things. I don't think we did a good job, and I got into not fisticuffs, but got criticized for saying that we need to do more to let the public know what it is and what you want. My suggestion would be that you put out a newsletter, but it's a series of newsletters where you put it out monthly or whatever you decide, and the closer you get, it is monthly. But in your newsletter, you refer at the top of it saying you can see other pieces of the project in month X. You know, and so you have them all right in front of people so they don't have to go search for it. The second thing, I'm an advocate of the Community Advocate, the newspaper, and Dave Bagden is more than willing to help you or any community. Naturally, we did not use it as effectively as we could through the whole process. And some felt that, well, they have an agenda on what they think, how it should go. Well, that can be a double-edged sword. I mean, they have the experience in talking to these others that you don't have to go to, and they can, based on what you say they can print, they can help you, if you will, because they've been in the other communities to find things. You have to control that, govern that, but I think they can provide good service for you. Those are the two ways that I would say that you want to.
did you hold a lot of open forums for the community?
We did, but it was at the end, and I think when I talk about the grant process of doing that, I think we can talk about that a little bit more. We
Okay,
held them at
thank
the
you.
end, but over that period of time, the public was not aware, and things have changed. And that could be one of the questions you can come back at me. I think I can answer a little bit more on that.
All right, sorry. Okay, I'll be quiet.
You want to keep
Just
aware.
as other,
You
just
want
as
to
other
keep aware.
examples, Bill, I just wanted to throw, Hopkinton did a website that had all of their construction plans that was separate from the regular Hopkinton Library website that they referred people to, which got visited more than the regular website did. So that was something that they kind of threw out there. And then I know with Shrewsbury, because their plan failed a couple times at a town meeting, they ended up doing a campaign where they had volunteers go door to door to ask people if they knew about the project and if they had any questions. So those are also just two other examples that I'm aware of that were kind of helped.
There's no question about it. I think you've seen I'm sure Ryan, David told me you're aware of our website. There's a lot of good information there. It's the continuous keeping the people updated. Okay. And I'll touch on that as we go along.
Okay.
The other thing that you want to keep in touch with here in Westboro over the recent years, we've said the public has said they want this building and that building, whether it's a senior center or they want this or they want that. So when it came down to, 7, 8 years later, saying, and then the money went up, escalated. Unless everybody's aware of the specifics of what you're doing and how it fits in harmony with the rest of what the community wants, not just those library associated people, you're going to get bitten. There's no question. And I'll address a little bit of that. So I'm already there, but is the library grant the best way to go? This is specifically Bill Linane's point of view, okay? When you go with a grant, whether it's a grant way or a library grant or any grant, you are, strong word, but forced to do what they say. We had very good input from our community. We had very good input from the Library Association, and our architect was excellent in putting it all together. But 7, 8 years later, along with what I said, there are other things that the community wants. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? we had reasons, we don't have good meeting space here in town. We need that. And along with the price and the rest of it, it just got blown out of proportion. So you think hard and long, apply for it, but understand that you're gonna have to go with what they tell you, like in any grant. And that's nothing against the association. It's just the grant process way of doing it. From a construction background point of view, I don't know whether we could do it or not, but now as we look, and we'll talk about that. Could we get a grant for a roof? Could we get a grant for windows? Could we get a grant or something? Or yes, you end up with a, an Anderson window, or you end up specifically with a type of roof and all the rest. But you can evaluate that along with your construction team. You're not that way. You're not forced into what the community might want to say. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? Which is in the grant, and you have to stick with what the grant. Let's see. Currently, what we're right now, the construction team, and we have the approval from the trustees. We've gone back to the architect, which is LPAC. It's the same architect that did Shrewsbury, and I recommend them highly. They know what they're doing. So we've gone back to them and with the OPM and said, this is what we'd like to do. Stay within the confines of the building. Yes, tell us, we need a roof, we need windows, we need multiple other things. But also take a visionary look of what the space requirements in the building are, so that we don't put a window in the wrong place, or we don't replace a window and then in 2 years decide that's where we want to put a room, and that window becomes obsolete and you're going to close it off. I can't imagine what the public would say, okay? And the same thing is simple as electrical outlets. If you know certain places, whether it's a teen room, or whether it's where you keep your private information or anything else, you decide to change that, and you have to modify the building for it. You don't want to go back to that. So somehow take an overall view of what you really want in your building, and then do the repairs that you need. It sounds like you're already on the road, but if you keep these in mind, you can ask your people that are involved in it already, your architect or whoever, keep them questions in mind. The big thing that I found in the end here, I'll use the word, the public today is very prickly, okay? From the worldwide, and us as a nation, and now us as Massachusetts, and in our community, we get hit hard, okay? On people that are experts that have no knowledge. They replaced windows in their house and they know how to do it. And the fire department can do any electrical things that you need. I mean, it's foolishness. And it goes back to what I said, if you make the public understand that there has to be approvals on all this, you make them understand. And I'm trying to work with our own community, and you people can certainly adopt from what we do, but let the public know what's needed outside of just going after the library. You can't cut back on some of these things. What's required as a state and the federal government, you just can't have Joe Schmo do something. It doesn't work. It's not approved. I'm sure others are available. One, I think, Brian, Ned Belden, who's our chair of the construction, I can give you his email. I did tell him I'd be talking to you, so he could talk in more detail, maybe he and I together. And of course, Maureen Amiot, the director. They have more details, okay? And as I said to David, this is the old guy's summary look at it. You can pick apart a lot of these things, there's no question about it. But having been around town for a long time and having certain backgrounds, this is my viewpoint. I will send you, as I said, there's a lot on the information that we have, and I'll send you the architect. We have what is it? Pagano, Pagano Associated. They're 52 years of business. They did the Shrewsbury Library. Their owner's PM is Vertex. They've been 27 years in the business. They've done buildings here in Westboro for us. The construction manager that we have is Fontaine Brothers. They've been in business 89 years. And out of my experience, and includes some projects worldwide, and especially across the nation, they're a team that are unbeaten. They work together. They care about the community. They care about their client. And I support them 100%. Like I say, I'm open to questions, or I can come back to you or talk with David.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I'd love to ask the board members if they have questions for you.
My takeaway, Bill, is that if you had to reduce a lot of complexities down to one lesson learned here, if I'm listening carefully to you, is that to educate the town sooner and more completely, so as to try to prevent, a backlash such as what you experienced here on your most recent vote, which by the way, we have all been, I told you this already, Bill, in person, each and every one of us has been monitoring the Westboro situation and trying to think about how do we get out of the blocks most efficiently. And so I would like also to say that that to the trustees that when I approached Bill and talked to him at his home, he was unhesitating in agreeing to share his knowledge and wisdom with us on this. And on behalf of all of us, I want to say a huge thank you. And I will not take any more of your time. You've been a good scout to stay with us all this time. But if other questions come up, I'm happy to talk to you again. And I'm sure Ryan would, or Marguerite. So if we can keep you in the on-deck circle, so to speak, Bill, for subsequent conversations or questions, that would be terribly valuable for us. So thank you in advance if you're willing to do that.
No problem.
Yes, I did have one question, but I don't want to go first if there are other trustees that have things they'd like to ask.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question was, you mentioned that sometimes having a grant locks you into certain things that may turn out to not be what you want to do later on down the road. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, and I hear you on that. And my question would be, what are the alternatives to going with the state grant? I mean,
That's a good, I don't know of. I mean, there may be, you'd have to do a grant search, outside of the Library Association.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't use the technical name, right? But that would be willing to support and fund library reconstructions, if you will. One of the biggest example I can give, in the grant we went after, we listened to the community, we listened to the association, we listened to the architect, and what they said is, in order to get the programs that everybody wanted, we had to expand the building, okay? So we had the base building, we had a 2-story in the back. In order to accommodate it, you go to a 3-story building. And that's great, and that would have accomplished everything. In my mind, that was the best way to go. Everything that's happened in the community from my grandfather on, who did the foundation to the library over 100 years ago, is we have always looked at what's best for the community in the long term and looking ahead, okay? And that's really what the grant provided. But that then you have to take into account what I said. You got to keep the community aware. And why do you need all this space? In the meantime, other buildings come up and people say, we're going to provide space. Why do they need it? But your grant focuses you on doing everything you agreed to do. You can't modify it, and you will hear that. You can modify it within the scope. In other words, we could change building, within the building, room sizes and that sort of thing, okay? But you can't take away and go back to 2 stories versus 3 stories is the biggest.
Oh. I know that Bolton did a renovation and an addition, and they did not use state money. They fundraised, and it worked very well for them.
Did
That
Hopkinton
piece-
use the grant?
Sorry?
Did Hopkinton, Hopkinton did
Yes,
it.
they
They
did.
did. Okay, 'cause they
If
did
we're
a lot of
talking about
fundraising as well.
the state construction program that is distributed through the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, they did. They got the funding. They were on the list.
There seems to be that lag of time between your initial, here's what we want, and when the grants get approved and when it goes to town meeting is the killer, because things change over time. And yeah, the community needs change. As you said, other buildings get built.
Mm.
That's a tough thing to get through.
Well, it's
Well,
an,
I mean, Bill, do you feel like you would have made, because you also just said that it was meeting the needs of your users, the design that you had. So would you, because it failed, would you have gone back and looked at modifying the building as a result? Because,
that's what we're in the process of doing now.
okay. Because then there'll be needs of the users that were brought forth that you can't meet, right?
Mostly space-wise and mostly accommodating everything that wants to do. So we're trying to fit everything into box A versus box A plus B.
so
I mean,
long-
I don't think the grant locked you in. It sounds like people requested, sorry, Marguerite, to cut you off, but it sounds like your users requested things. You came forward with a design, right, that accommodated all of those things. And I mean, if in following this, because I've followed the project pretty closely, I mean, it seems like the price was the thing that people were the most upset about at the end, right? The cost.
The price, but what Janet said is that the time frame.
Yeah.
Mass is changed according to what I hear, that they will no longer put these communities out, and we're only one of many, such a long time frame because things change in our moving world. So I believe the community was behind us, and we had the community support because we were back initially 2 or 3 times way up front to the town meeting, and everybody understood it. It's this long period of time, and you get the new people that come into the community and the challenges and all the rest. Why do you need this? And that's where the grant process, if you go back to them and study their grant process, maybe you can do it. If you can hold within what your community wants, plus not just what you people and what your library patrons want. That, to me, that's big, and that's where we got hit.
To
so
know
my-
that the construction program is looking at streamlining things now so that there's not going to be a separate planning and design phase and then construction. They're looking at making it all a seamless process, which I think might help future libraries with this, but unfortunately didn't aid Westboro's because I think you were
So-
still
but
part
if-
of that old process.
if I stand back and look at it, what I'm taking away, and I may be wrong, is that the state offers $9 million, but that effectively hamstrings flexibility in the process of selling the library to the town, and that maybe there's better ways to get $9 million than locking yourself into a design that's how old by the time it gets to the town meeting.
That's a piece. There's more than that, but that's definitely a piece of it.
I mean, I think the point I just tried to make, Marguerite, though, is that I think you would want to put forward a design where you're meeting as much of your user needs as possible. Like, I wouldn't want people to think that we're going to change it. Like, if the design ultimately is put forward because it's accommodating what people have asked for,
Mhm.
I think that is going to be the biggest communication challenge we're going to have, right? Because we're going to, what you're paying, what ultimately people would pay for in a project would reflect what they would want to see at the library, right? And the amount of space that would be available.
Yes, and in Southborough, we have a number of building situations that are ongoing that may be offering the meeting space that we're hoping to put into the library so that people could say, well, we don't need it anymore because we've got it in building Y or building Z. Do you see what
But
I mean?
even including Westborough's current structure, I
Mm.
think one of the initial things that we can say, and you got this can be part of any future communications with the public, is that we now have one of the smallest area libraries in our region. We are very tiny comparative to our neighbors, and our neighbors are bigger, yes, population wise, but when you start looking at it percent, like how big, I mean, Westboro would have been a lot bigger, but especially with like how big Marlboro is. Marlboro used to be an equivalent size for us, but they're getting a new library and it's
Yeah.
going to be much, much bigger.
Yeah, it's huge. So,
But-
but Bill, you were going to say something there.
Can I, just a minute, Margaret, but Marlboro is not a town. Marlboro is a city.
Yeah.
And I don't know the details, but there's a small educated people that make decisions on what you're gonna do.
Yeah,
When
they
you're
have the
in a
city
town,
council.
you're
They have
gonna
a city
take everybody, okay? And one example, it sounds like you have a growing teen thing, okay? Does everybody understand that educating and providing space to the teen belongs in the library? Or does it belong in some rec center or something else? I mean, that's one example. So
Yeah,
it's,
Marlboro has a city council.
it's
They don't have a
encompassing.
town meeting. Yeah.
Margaret, I'm sorry. but-
No, I just said Marlboro has a city council. They don't have a town meeting, so they don't have to go through that.
Well,
And-
it sure seems like whatever plans we come up with need to be flexible. So that you could have a room that maybe initially you thought you'd need meeting rooms, but then the demand seems to go towards early childhood or teen center or whatever, and you could shift it around. If you lock too tightly into something, you know.
See, I like the idea of like a local history room, Janet, but
Mhm.
I could also, I feel like a space could be built for that, but then it could potentially be used for other things if
Right.
there's community input from people. So it's, I mean, Bill did say that I think some of the individual room uses that is kind of permissible, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to have to put forward a plan with a particular amount of square footage. I mean, I would say, Marguerite, I think explaining the amount of square footage we want based on the feedback we receive from the public needs to be, we need to be clear in the communication on that expanding the space, there's going to be a cost. And the town is going to, and like Bill said, it's going to have to be put forward to the whole town, right? That's part of a town meeting. So trying to do as much education around that as possible is going to be a key factor.
Mhm.
Yeah, one example that Janet brought up that we're now experiencing, okay? When we went with the grant, they said we needed a certain square footage for the teen, and especially it was growing. And again, back a few years, and it's grown even more. At the same time, you need an area for periodicals that old guys and young people can come and, read and all the rest of it. So now that we've defeated now, the director and the staff have said, okay, the area that's not used as much, we'll expand it for the teen area, okay? So now people are coming back and saying that, not everybody, but people that have seen it, not everybody goes in, as you well know, but they're saying, okay, you took away the periodicals and you're expanding the area for the teens, and maybe that's okay, but the teens don't come here until 2:30, 3 o'clock. Why can't the others stay over there, which is kind of what I think Margaret was saying, why can't they be over there until the teens show up? So that's one example, Ryan, and when you say square footage, you kind of multiply it. Yes, you put up a sign and say, is a 2:30, plan that the teens are gonna be here, try to do your reading and all the rest, and maybe have a smaller area for periodicals after 2, between 2 and closing or something. But think about Saturdays when the teens might be there, et cetera. But that wasn't, I don't think I wouldn't blame anybody. I don't think we saw that, but we certainly see it now.
This is so interesting to me. I mean, it is fascinating, the funding, rethinking the funding about going with the state or not.
Well, again, don't just listen to Bill. I mean, Brian can go back and, but
I mean, I appreciate your comments, Bill. I think that pursuing the state construction program financially is very incentivized for us. It would pay
Yeah.
for a significant amount of the project. So again, I think that looking at the public communication factors, looking at how they would make modifications to the program in the future years so that hopefully it wouldn't be the same process for you guys. Because really what happened was, I mean, COVID in a way kind of killed the project, is that this was supposed to start years ago and it didn't. And then with the ballooning construction prices, it like for us, we did a CPA funded roof restoration, right? And that COVID actually helped us because we went to bid and then got the construction people in. It made the project take longer, but it kept the costs down because we did it so early in the pandemic. You guys, because you had to get the funding request kind of now that things are back to normal-ish, the construction prices are not back to normal. I mean, that's really what the truth of it is.
Mr. COVID was a terrible guy, okay? But
Yeah.
but he hasn't gone away, and he
Is
could come
still
back
terrible.
again. But in the meantime, it was not only COVID, but maybe COVID related. All the costs of shipping and all the rest that got affected, that was significant for us. There's no question about it. Going back, Ryan, you're absolutely right. I am not saying don't go after it, but go after it with the funding from the state, but go after it with open eyes. And the fact that they're changing, from what I hear, is that they're going to award sooner and quicker. They've already realized that it's not only Westboro, but other communities have been hurt by this.
Yes, yes.
Go with
Definitely.
open eyes, along with the other things. What does your community want? So,
And also, I will say, we talked about our friends group earlier, right? Our friends group has some new membership in it. They are actively trying to get their donation more sort of 21st century, right? So it's not just cash and checks that we're using for everything. They're trying to get online payments. And I mean, I think part of a future expansion of our library is also working with the friends group, working like with what Marguerite kind of brought up, which is seeing if there's independent fundraising options that could be a factor in that, because I think that would definitely help supplement any sort of construction we would do in the future.
yeah, and I don't forget who, Janet or Mara. As far as funding, there's no question. We have a great team set up to do it. Hindsight's always easier. They didn't go out and ask for monies early on. They said because of the time frame, and they could see the questioning coming up. Would they ask for the money and then have to return the money, which would have been big? If we had said that all the way along the line that there's a fundraising mechanism, their target is, and it always has been for the last, they've been in existence at least 7 years, $1 million. What they have in the bank, I'm not quite sure, but it's far from $1 million. So that's important. One of you spoke of other communities did it completely on fundraising. So keep that in mind. The other thing is the friends of the library. I've been adamant that our friends do a great job in selling books and bringing back the community, the monies and sharing it with the library, no question. But Ryan, I'm sure you've looked online. Friends can be a much bigger organization, and if you get the right people, they can offer you not just selling books. There's so much more there. Somehow or other, we got ourselves into a very narrow-minded friends group. They do a great job, but on a small thing. If you get it into a wider thing, that gets out into the public. That gets further out into the public of letting the public know other things that are going on in the library. That whole thing can help you.
I followed the construction project that Belmont has been putting forward in the past few years too. And I can tell you that they got approval. They're going to go forward with their new library because they convinced their community. And there was a lot of pushback there from some residents, but I don't think they would have been successful they have hundreds and hundreds of people who are part of their friends group. And they have an executive board, I think, of like 30 people. Like it's crazy how big it is and how much of a factor it is and how much money they're able to raise is staggering. So, and they're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of other groups that are like that. So, again, the Friends is its own entity. I try to help support them, but that reaching out with them and trying to work with them on a future building project is something that I think is key to our success.
It is, no question. Brian's got it in hand, guys.
Well, I think you were in good hands with Maureen too. I think there were factors. I think there were factors, Bill, that weren't entirely within your sphere of control,
No.
As I said, it's one man's point of view. I'm trying to summarize things, lessons learned, I'll call it. And Maureen has done great things. I think the other thing, as far as the trustees, I'm retiring, not because this failed. If I were to stay on, I'd be 87 years old, and that's too goddamn old, excuse me. So, but hopefully I'll stay on the construction committee for a while, just from my background. But the other thing is, the trustees, reach out, get some new young blood, bring some various things. It's hard to get people to run for it. I understand that. But I think it's important to keep, as one of the reasons that I got on it was Maureen realized that just great people understanding books and libraries doesn't make any committee, okay? My background of, like I said, being various committees throughout the town and bringing that in. But you need a well-rounded, and you need some younger people. And I think there's one of us retiring, myself retiring, one left the board, we have two others. So hopefully we can instigate and bring some younger people on, some new people that really supported the renovation. So, but don't limit yourselves. I think I saw that you need one new member. We have 9. I don't know how many you have, but for some reason we have 9. But encourage some of the people that come into the library and show interest. And especially if they show interest in a new building or expanding the building, expanding the facility into more current day and beyond. Those are the people you want to get in your board. Nothing, I love listening to you. You're all sharp, but somewhere along the line, you get like Bill, you get old.
Thank you.
I'm
for
sorry,
all
I
of
don't want to
this.
take any more of your time. But.
No, thank you for all of this. It's wonderful. We deeply appreciate it, and we'll probably be emailing you off and on for the next 3 years, wanting to know.
Might be a little more.
Well, David lives around the corner. He can come up and ask me. I still
there
haven't got the right name for the color of his house yet. It's yellow, but there's a special yellow, and
It's called Ming Gold.
Ding.
Ming Gold.
Ming Dinosaur. Okay, all right. Anyway, listen, thank you, David. If we have no more questions, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
So move.
Okay, and second?
Second.
All right, was that Amy?
Amy had to head out.
Okay, that's Janet. Okay, that was Janet's voice. Sorry. All right. I'm gonna I to adjourn. David.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
And Amy's not with us.
Kim is still here. Kim Regan.
Kim. Oh yes. I'm sorry. You're off the top of my head screen. There it is. All right, Kim.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you. And again.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for coming.
Bill, that's terrific.
It's
Much
just solid
appreciated.
gold data.
We
Really,
appreciate your time and your experience.
Yeah,
So thank
absolutely.
you.
Very helpful.
All right, so I'm going to just say tentative date for our next regular meeting is February the 17th.
Yeah, please mark your calendars for
Yeah.
the January 28th, the Saturday.
Yes.
And then my plan, I'll be at the library earlier that day if anybody has questions or wants to stop by. But the other thing, even though Kim just dropped off, I do not know how the reclassification for the position is going to affect our budget. We haven't gotten that information yet. There were a number of reclassifications that were approved on Monday's personnel board meeting, so that will have a factor in the budget. So I don't, hopefully we'll get those numbers before the 28th, but their advisory is being made aware of the changes. And I
Oh.
know, Janet, you can't come, right? You got in touch with me about that. So
Yeah.
just if you want to touch base prior to that meeting, if there's anything you want to communicate, you can let me know.
I guess, just if there's anything that you're afraid is gonna be, contentious, I wouldn't mind hearing about it so I could give you some arguments.
I honestly, I think
She's been there, right?
the budget is very straightforward. I mean, this year is the year where they did a pay and classification study that most of the increases are tied to that. It has nothing to do sort of with, there's a few new smaller databases we've added, but that we also took a big one away. And then that helped cover the increases in the regular databases that we had. So, I feel very comfortable putting this one forward. I don't think there's going to be a lot of questions. We can speak to usage of the electronic resources if that's something that they want to talk about. I'll have some circulation numbers with me when I go to that meeting so that I can talk about, how circulation has been working over the past couple of years. I mean, the good thing is our program numbers are good. They're not like exploding. We're not like doing 100 people events, but what I can say is our circulation numbers are really good. Like they have been consistent over the years and are consistently good for going into this meeting as well.
That's
So,
great. Now, advisory is on Zoom or in person?
It's in person, I believe. I don't know if they're doing it electronically. My
They'll
understanding
probably
is that
owl it, right?
it's just in person because it's going to be at the senior center. I don't
Right.
know if they have the owl set up there, but I don't know.
All right.
I'll when I find out, Marguerite, I'll send it out. And Janet, I know you can't go, but I'll keep you in the loop with
Okay.
everybody else so that
Can you
know.
stay on here so we can talk about some potential times to get together with John for next week?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna exit.
Okay.
I am too.
Thank you,
Okay,
everybody.
bye, guys.
Okay.
Thank you
Everyone.
again, David,
Thank
for
you for
getting
doing
Bill
this.
to
Thanks, David,
come.
Oh,
for
you're
getting
welcome.
him. That was good.
Yes, it was very helpful.
He's a good guy. He's got a wealth of, as you can tell, a wealth of
Yeah.
knowledge.
I know it made
Absolutely.
the meeting take longer, but I still think it was valuable.
No, it was fabulous. It's gonna save us a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye.
Okay, I'm signing out. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, because I've got a
Okay.
couple times next week that I can't meet, so
Okay.
like not on Wednesday.
Okay.
And not from 11 o'clock on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, I have a CMLA meeting in the morning that
Okay.
starts at, I think, 10 or 10:30.
Yeah, I've got an 11 to 1 and then a 2 to whatever.
Yeah, I think I'm meeting the directors, some of the area directors. It was organized by Maureen from Westboro, so that's kind of like timely, but she was trying to organize a lunch thing, and I think we're either doing it on Thursday or Friday. I think Thursday was the day we were leaning towards, so that's at noon. I'd be available after 1
Yeah,
on
Thursday. I've got, Thursday I'm booked from 2 o'clock on.
Okay, that's good because we were going to do some of the interviews for the position on
Okay.
Thursday afternoon.
So
Tuesday,
Monday
I'm
all
in
day, Tuesday all day, or Friday all day I can do.
Okay, I can see when he's available. I'm in Tuesday at 1, so it would be in the afternoon. Initially, we were gonna do last week, Tuesday at 1. So I'll just say, are you in Tuesday or Friday? Sometimes he leaves earlier on Fridays, because a lot of the town departments do. Not me, I'm always there till 5. But
Yeah,
I'll check to see if, because if Tuesday doesn't work, we'll shoot for Friday, and then we'll just look at dates in the following week.
well, no, following week I'm in Oregon. I'm gonna be in
Okay.
Oregon for 2 weeks.
Then either Tuesday or Friday, Janet, or we'll just meet with him.
Separately and
When you're
we'll
back.
work it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But I thought it was
I'll
worth a shot.
if we can't get it with you, I'll try to meet with him one-on-one. How does that sound?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, yeah.
Okay. See ya.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. How do I get out? There I am.